Good morning, everybody, and welcome to NJPAC's first ever virtual Kwanzaa celebration. My name is John Schreiber, and I'm the president of NJPAC, and this is one of the days when I am especially proud to have this job. The 2020 incarnation of our Kwanzaa festival, that's been a highlight of our season every single year since the Arts Center opened. This has been a difficult year, and it continues to be that way, but we could not let the long-standing tradition of NJPAC's Kwanzaa celebrations be interrupted, not even by a global health crisis that have brought events to a halt everywhere. I'm happy we've been able to pivot and re-envision this festival as a virtual one. We've had some practice in translating NJPAC programs from concerts to arts education classes into online events over the past 10 months. But I think really this is one of our more ambitious virtual events of the season, with so many events linked by and inspired by the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. I want to thank the Cooperman family for sponsoring our Kwanzaa festival, as they have for so many years. And I wanted to let you know that thanks to the Coopermans, in particular, our longtime friends Lee and Toby Cooperman, NJPAC is embarking on the process of designing, planning, and building a new and important feature on our campus, and that's the Cooperman Family Arts Education and Community Center, which will, among many other things, be a purpose-built home for many of the Arts Center's community engagement events. It'll be built just across the street from our theaters, and in a few years, I think a lot of really exciting developments will happen in this wonderful new space for our Newark community. Today, we're going to launch our virtual Kwanzaa celebrations with a tribute to the elders. A council of elders has been a critical part of NJPAC's evolution since we opened our doors, and we continue to be inspired by and to learn from the guidance of our community's older adults, who have graciously agreed to share their wisdom and the insights they've accumulated over a lifetime. At today's event, we're happy that we will hear from 3 of our community's most significant elders: poet and activist Amina Baraka, writer Stanley Terrell, and Newark City Council President Mildred Crump. But before they speak, we have a very special guest, Ras J. Baraka, Newark's exceptional mayor, and of course, Amina's son. He'll be our opening speaker today. Mr. Mayor, welcome to our Kwanzaa Festival.
Thank you. Appreciate it, John. I want to first thank you, NJPAC, the women of NJPAC, all of the folks that made this virtual Kwanzaa a reality. And as you stated, by the virtual, the fact that we're doing this virtually speaks to where we are at this moment in time and history. And because we're in the middle of it, we probably don't see the vastness of it, the real impact that it's having on us. And maybe years after this is done, we'll be able to assess all of the, first, the emotional, psychological, and physical damage that it has done. More importantly, what it has unearthed. And I think that all of these things that we're going through presently give us the opportunity to open our eyes and see and have insight on, what is going on and what needs to be changed, which makes this program that much more important. This Kwanzaa celebration, the celebration of life, the celebration of community, celebration of family, celebration of our historical journey in this country, which has not been easy. And this year has added to the uneasiness of our journey. It has not been no crystal stairs, right? As the poet pointed out, life has not been a crystal stair. And our ability to get through this period at this time, just speaks to all of the work that needs to be done, but also speaks to all of the work that has been done. And as was already stated, the 7 principles, people often spend a lot of time talking about the rituals of Kwanzaa, paying attention to the history of Kwanzaa, the people, the leaders who created Kwanzaa. I think the most significant thing is really the principles that were created out of that. The objective principles of Kwanzaa, the principle of unity, of us being together and uniting around a common cause, a common idea, a common culture, the idea of collective work and responsibility, our efforts to use our collaboration in our community to build a better future and a better present for ourselves. This idea of cooperative economics, of supporting businesses in your own community, supporting small businesses, helping them grow and develop so that you have commerce in your own neighborhood, in your own community, so you can create employment for one another and jobs for families so you can carry wealth on down. It also speaks to the great wealth gap that exists in this county and in this state specifically that needs to be addressed more vigorously and more intentionally in this country and in this state. All of the principles of faith, having faith now is probably more important than many generations at this point. Having faith that the staircases will be there when we take the first step, as was said, or having faith that the sun will come up, that tomorrow will present itself, that we'll get through this, and faith that our struggles and our efforts will bear some fruit. So that's important. So hopefully we pay attention to these principles and we try to live these principles and incorporate these principles and teach these principles to our children so they can teach it to their children and we pass it on down. And the principles are objective, right? They don't have a face. They don't, it's not about who created it or the author of it. They're very basic principles that were organized and put together that we should follow and celebrate during this Kwanzaa time. So I would like to uphold that during this period. Uphold the principles, the 7 principles of the Nguzo Saba that are celebrated throughout January, throughout the new year. January 1st being the Emancipation Proclamation, when slavery was legally made, was legally abolished by a war document. So in my mind, thank everybody for getting on this. Appreciate you for being a part of this program. Thank you, John and NJPAC and the women of NJPAC for thinking highly enough of our community, of our culture, of our history, of our future to continue to put on this program. It is deeply necessary now, probably more than ever. And I just want us to bathe ourselves in the good spirits that we get today and prayerfully that it stays with us all the way until January the 1st, 2021 and beyond. God bless you.
Dr. Akil Papani?
Yes. Well, hello, everyone. Glad to be here. It's exciting for us to have this opportunity to come together and share this time of Kwanzaa. We have a powerful opportunity to continue this legacy. And I first want to thank John. I want to thank the mayor and all those who worked so arduously to organize this powerful event. We have to continue to share our cultural, our historical contributions to the world. And as we do so, we begin to share with other folks how important this journey is and has been. Most of the principles have already been spoken of. I think the mayor very eloquently talked about that we need to focus on the principles, and our brother from Force of Natures went over the principles. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I think that they've elucidated the point that we need to focus on them. I want to take this time to kind of build on that and talk about how we cherish our elders, right? And how they have been the stalwart of our community before the founding of Kwanzaa for thousands and thousands of years. And so you may not be able to see this portion right now, but I'm going to pour just real quick, since we can't see all of this, pour libations to all of those who came before me and ask all of you to say a big ashe. We pour libations to all those ancestors who struggled to bring us to this point, who created the possibilities for us to think outside the box, created the possibilities for us to push the envelope when it felt like there was no envelope to push, who thought broadly about the possibilities of what we could bring to the table. So many of us think that the times that we're in and the things that we experience are limited, but it's the creative energy of those who came before us who made it possible for us to understand that the language that we speak is built on the backs of those who thought about language at the very beginning. Ashe? We think about the ways in which we write, that those who write today in all the thousands and thousands of languages, that the writing systems that were created began in Mother Africa, thousands and thousands of millions of years ago, really, that their system, the oldest system we know of writing, the oldest writing we know of, it looks at you can go down to the southern part of Africa and you see that in South Africa, they have what they call rock art that's 10, 20,000 years old. Some of it is still there today. We've been doing math for thousands of years. You have the Shango bone that's still there. You can see that the first ideas about mathematics were there and created. So for all of those, we say Ashe. And for all those ancestors who came for various ways, various iterations, those who came before Columbus and those who came after to the Americas, we say Ashe. And for all of those who helped us to get to the places of pushing and struggling, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, Fannie Lou Hamer, Amina Baraka, and so many other, all those who pushed and fought for us to be where we are today, we say Ashe. And for those whose names we haven't mentioned, but we know that their spirit and energy is here with us today, we say Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. So you say Ashe and you invoke that energy. Call up your own family ancestors as you do that. And part of this whole thing about Kwanzaa, this is really a pre-Kwanzaa celebration because Kwanzaa begins on the 26th. So we want you to take Kwanzaa and share Kwanzaa in your own houses. So I'm going to turn on another camera real quick so that you can begin to look at how we share Kwanzaa in our own homes and how you set up Kwanzaa for yourself and your family. This is what we want you all to think about as you're developing Kwanzaa and you're setting up Kwanzaa for everyone else, that these principles that you see here, hopefully you can see them on your screen, but that all the principles of Kwanzaa and the aspects of Kwanzaa, we have the Nguzo Saba, and we have the Mishuma Saba, the candles, and so that these principles, these candles, the candle holders, all of these things are essential for us to think about what Kwanzaa is about. So I'm going to explain to you real quick, and you can't see me, but you should be able to see the image that's in front of you. We have the mizao, which is the crops, and the crops are important because Kwanzaa is actually a harvest festival, and we're not out in the ground harvesting today, but we're harvesting the labor of our efforts. So I like to have young folks, children, think about what they harvest is that their hard work, when they do well in their exams and they're writing their papers, that they've and the fruition of that is the grades that they receive, and really more importantly than the grades is the knowledge that they receive. We build all of this on the mat, the mkeka, which is the foundation. We have to make sure that our foundation is so strong, right? Because there's things that try to pull us apart. But if you look how the mkeka is weaved, that the weaving of the mat that is used at the foundation of Kwanzaa pulls together these fibers that then become something powerful, something you can lay on, something that you can carry something in, something that some of them are so tight that you can carry water in them because of the way that they're weaved in baskets and other things. But that weaving of this is how we would need to weave our foundation together as a family, as a community. And you think about that, and you put the mkeka at the foundation of your Kwanzaa setup, and then that represents that, right? That's on which everything else is built. So important also is the muhindi, right? The muhindi is the corn. For every family, you should have at least one ear of corn, and that ear of corn represents the children, and so that the children are the key to the continuity of our community. And so make sure that you have at least one ear of corn, even if you don't have children, but make sure that you then think about others, and you can, we, especially in this time that we want to build the family. And if you don't have your own children, then talk about some other children, share with them something to help uplift them during this time. It's challenging for young folks this time. They don't have opportunity to get out with their friends. Some of them are confined, and some of their parents are ill, or grandparents may have passed, or some of them, their parents may have passed. So there's lots of things going on, and we already have a lot of trauma in our community. So we need to come together and focus on the youth to help bring them up and make them strong in the process. The one thing missing from my table is the bandera, right? The flag, the red, black, and green flag. As you see, the candles come in the same colors, red, black, and green. And those colors represent Marcus Garvey came with this idea of these colors, and that when we think about the red, the black, and green, the blood of the people themselves, the green representing the land and the wealth of the people, that we have to find ways to come together to unify ourselves. And we can use these components of Kwanzaa to do so. That each one of those candles represents one of the principles, right? The Mishuma Saba are the 7 candles, and that these principles, we light one each day. The first day we light the black candle, which represents unity, umoja. And so as we light the candles on each day of Kwanzaa, then that begins we reflect on those principles each day. And we want to make sure that all the young folks are involved. I always have, even if you got the youngest kids, hold their hand and help them to light a candle so that they're entrenched in the process of Kwanzaa and they can begin to start thinking about them. And as the mayor spoke so eloquently, I think we want to make sure that it's not just about lighting the candle, but the lighting of the candle is the lighting of the principle, right? We're focusing our attention on the principle of that day. And so that hopefully the lighting of that candle enshrines that in young folks, and their participation enshrines it in their mind. So each one of those principles, you have a day, and it goes all the way out until the last day of Kwanzaa. We want to make sure that we also encourage and enrich the young folks. And so you'll see we have zawadi on the table, right? Zawadi are the gifts. And so then the gifts can be, you'll see we have a Sankofa bird here. The Sankofa bird is on the table. We have a cup made in South Africa. We have books, all of these different types of things. The candle holder itself is something that I made, the Kanara. So all of these things are things that we want to make sure that are essential for us to share together. And last but not least, we have the Unity Cup, which is the Kikombe Cha Umoja. And so then the Unity Cup is in typical times, we would all share it, right? So you spin it around, and each person takes a sip from the Unity Cup, or at least gestures to do so. And, it's similar to, people sharing things. In many African cultures, they'll share food at the table. If you eat Ethiopian food, all the food is in the center and everybody shares from that central piece. In other places, it's similar cultural ideas about food and togetherness, and that unity being the key for all of these different aspects of the principles of Kwanzaa. We want to encourage you to look up. There's so much information on the internet. I suggest that you go to the internet, find all of the principles that you can, print out the sheet of it, post it up on your wall, and celebrate the principles with the community, with your children. And even if you need to do a virtual, there's going to be some other virtual ones out there. We're working on one. As a matter of fact, the beauty of Kwanzaa this year is that I was in South Africa earlier this year, and now a group in Cape Town, South Africa wants me to help them to introduce Kwanzaa to Cape Town, South Africa. So Kwanzaa is global, and we want to think of ourselves as global, and as global as we can be in terms of sharing our ideas, our culture, our intellect, our financial wealth. And that's all these principles bring us together. And as we celebrate ourselves, let nothing and no one stop us from recognizing that we can come together, even in the face of this pandemic, and uplift each other, uplift our community, uplift our history and culture, and realize that as we are actualizing the things that we do, that we are creating the foundation, we're creating a new mkeka, a new mat for the next generation of youth. And so that's why we also connect this. See, this is an intergenerational piece. And that's why we're connecting what we're doing here today with the youth and the elders. So today we have the elders who are going to share with us some great insights. We have Amina Baraka, who's going to be here sharing with us. We have none other than Stanley Terrell, and we have, of course, Mama Africa, who is been on city council for many years, and Mama Mildred Crump is someone who's going to share with some great insights with us. But I'm going to turn it over at this point to Deborah Smith Gregory, who's going to introduce them and help us to realize how we take these principles and make an intergenerational connection between the youth and our elders. Deborah, it's up to you.
Good morning and greetings, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Kalfani, for allowing us to learn more, and for those who already know about Kwanzaa, to refresh our memories about the principles. Thank you to Mayor Baraka, and as well John Schreiber, for your warm remarks. So we looked at a theme this year, and the theme is around poetry as a tool for Black liberation. And we thought about poetry being one of the oldest expressions and very important to our culture, like songs of liberation, like Wade in the Water, like I Wish I Knew How It Feels to Be Free. And so we asked the elders to share with us in a different way. Instead of telling a story, they're going to give us an expression in spoken word. Back in the day, that is not what we called it, but we're also having some young people on, so it will be an intergenerational conversation through poetry. Our first poet is Amina Baraka. She was inducted in the NJ Pack of Elders Council in 1998. She is a lifelong resident of Newark, and with her and her husband, Amina Baraka, opened their home that became known as the Spirit House to allow a gathering place to build community organization. She led the women's division to found an independent after-school program and preschool program called the African Free School. Amina is the author of books of poetry. You can find her work. One is called the Song for the Masses, and Blues in All Hues. She also co-authored a prize-winning anthology for African-American women with her husband, Amina Baraka. So from the soul sessions, the Sunday soul sessions of the 60s to Kamako's Blues People, the Barakas have opened up their home for community art space, for the development of community art, politics, and self-determination. Amina is not well today. She is home right now, convalescing, and she asked me to stand in her place. I knew I could not do that, absolutely not. To read her poetry. So we have a clip of her reading her own poetry that was presented back in July at the Caribbean Culture event sponsored by the City of Newark.
Here, he is the most right-wing, cowardly person that could ever hold office. Anybody who does these things to women and children It reminds you of the Exodus. You remember the Exodus in World War II with the whole Jewish Holocaust, and they was going from place to place and nobody would let them in? And we saw the result of that. And as Americans from all over the world, because I'll tell you about us, we're everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. And to be in this country and see, because you know, I'm a victim of, like I always tell people, I didn't come looking for work. I came shackled, covered with blankets of blood. I was trying to go back home. I hear chariots in my songs. Why don't you swing down, sweet chariot, stop and let me ride, and I'll see you on the other side. As a matter of fact, I have a poem, Mama said here. I have a poem that I wrote about, it's called Slave Trade. African slaves didn't come looking for work. Pepper and yam, goober nuts and watermelon, root and seed people came shackled, covered with blankets of blood, came trying to return. In dreams, they walked the water and grew wings, trying to go back home. Hid chariots in their songs, stayed with guns in their backs and blues in their souls, and escaped in their bones. Why don't you swing down, sweet chariot, stop and let us ride? Swing down, sweet chariot, stop and let us ride. Rock me, Lord, come and easy, and I'll see you on the other side. Sold like dirt, bought like fertilizer, sweat came like rain, land grew white with cotton. Labor made their oppressors king, didn't sing songs, tap dance, and joy of bondage. We worshiped the night and stole away into the dark, steal away to Jesus. We armed ourselves with drums, guides, and guns. Lurked around plantations looking for freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over we. Before we be a slave, we'll be buried in our grave and go home to our people where we'll be free. No dropped heads, no scraping feet, no waiting for Abraham. Took their passions for wars that carried freedom slogans and signs of promise. Oh, those sun-baked people with their red clay ways came from far and near, spitting fire, harboring weapons, and always looking for freedom's way.
Now you see why, even though she asked me to stand in for her, I could absolutely not do that. Amina, thank you so much for sharing your song, your insight with us. So now, how we do this is it is an intergenerational conversation. So we're going to go back and forth between our elders and our rising millennials, our youth. We say our youth because we are elders, but they're not in high school. They are young adults. I should name them that. So our next poet is Evan Cutts. He is an artist in resident at New Jersey PAC, and he is with us to use poetry, the tool for Black liberation, as his expression. Evan?
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you all for being here. It is an honor to be sharing space, community, and poetry with all of you. I'm going to be reading an original poem dedicated to my late grandmother, Dorothy Lauder. She passed last year and was a rock in our family. So this poem, With Arms Outstretched, is dedicated to her. And you were dead as I read Menegio high under drying marigolds on the front porch of my childhood home. And you were dead when my father returned early from work, withered and languished by the expected surprise. Grandma's gone. How long before he allowed himself to cry when Uncle Kevin broke the news like a body upon the cross, or after in the parking lot obscured by June's noon glare, cradling the wheel, wilting as you did, whenever the phone rang and it was no one calling, not the pastor, nor your daughter, not God, not yet. Or perhaps it was Uncle Ivan, thankless and scheming, or my anxious prayers for an answering machine made true. But there's no providence in abandonment. Yes, I was afraid to think of you dying, what it would mean for the rest of us. So naturally,
Evan, your sound went out.
lengthening silence. Suppose your finite breath has its own music and we dance beyond telephone states. Perhaps then I would be able to amend or translate grief's seasons, to garden the wide, empty space our voices make. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. And I want to say to the elders, the grandmothers and the grandfathers, we have to share with our grandchildren. We need to tell our stories to them so that when we're gone, they will know that they're part of a legacy and a continuum. Clearly, Evan was close to his grandmother, and we thank you. We thank you for sharing with us that beautiful poem. This is a form of conversation. It's just that we're doing it in a poetic style as opposed to a conversation. So our next elder is Stanley Terrell. Stanley is a lifelong resident of Newark, and he was inducted into the NJPAC Elders Council in 2016. For 38 years, Stanley was a voice at the Newark Star Ledger newspaper. I know some of you young people don't even, you're believing that doesn't exist, but newspaper. He was a writer for City Hall, covering City Hall at one point. He was a writer covering civil rights organizations, and he later became an editorial writer. Stanley's love for jazz comes from his dad. His dad and his mother were leader activists in the East Ward. They led for the cause of housing needs and rights and quality for their residents and their families. Stanley had a very strong role model to know what activism looks like, well, not just to, he saw it up close and personal between his mother and his father, who the housing project in the East Ward, which was originally named the FDR Roosevelt, FDR Public Housing Homes, later was changed to honor the Terrell family, to Terrell Homes. So and the last thing, so in this, all of this writing that Stanley has done, because he has a strong foundation of family, he writes poetry and he has published books. He writes short stories. And I guess because of all the writing on the nonfiction side of covering Newark, his beloved city for all those years, that this other side, it was an outlet and a love for him as well. I present to you Stanley Terrell.
Good morning or good afternoon. Glad to be here. Thank you very much, Deborah. It was a beautiful introduction. I was trying to find out what to read, and I stumbled upon an old poem, and I thought maybe I would read this because it kind of reflects how it's the changing same of what we've been going through. In this year of Black Lives Matter, I thought this would be appropriate. It's called Empire Statism, Justice in New York. Just when you thought you had seen it all, here comes something else again. So when you try to make sense of it, your mind can readily acknowledge the futility of that effort, even as it grapples with the madness of deja vu all over again. Every brother in the New York metro area felt those bullets ripping through his flesh when the jury said this was a righteous shoot. As the days go by, those bullets will be piercing the lungs, abdomens, shoulders, hearts, thighs, and footsies of splibs from coast to coast. And each bullet will be engraved, not guilty. No harm, no foul. There's a rule somewhere that makes it all right to shoot a black man down in the hallway. And we should understand and know we were always flamboyant and ostentatious. Must have been a big wallet he was reaching for. And he probably tried to go for it with that kind of chilly homeboy hip hop exaggerated swagger that would make any clear thinking, well-trained owner of the night concerned for his well-armed life, and that of his armed to the teeth partners patrolling a war-torn ghetto area they have sworn to bring down and subdue, control. Who could blame them? One liberal educated gets along with everybody co-worker said. The potential sincerity in his voice more sobering than the presumed logic he felt his statement entailed. Yeah, it makes sense, right? Young man standing in his hallway at the door of his living quarters, clearly aware of the ratio of firepower, ready to go down in a hail of bullets against 4 gung-ho special forces cops. Huey Newton lives. Nat Turner returns. Amadou Diallo avenging the devilishness of America with a shootout in a New York tenement. The conscious revolutionary example that will spur the rebellion against Giulianiism and light the spark for the new world millennium Black Rage Armageddon we all been awaiting. Except nobody said nothing about a damn the torpedo's assertion proceeding to reach for what? The last stand defiant assault that would wipe out 1 or 2 guardians of society who, if the verdict is to be believed, were merely doing their jobs in fear of their lives, responding in a way both logical and understandable. That's what the jury said by their not guilties. While it looked so much like a gun, engendered so much fear, it made sense that 4 special unit bastions of New York's finest could do nothing more than empty their clips, direct 41 bullets at an African immigrant vendor who probably was the only one thinking clearly. And his thoughts more than likely were, oh shit. Didn't know it was going down, but he saw the night riders descending on his building like a horde of ravenous Huns blood in their eyes, scorched earth in their attitude and on their breaths, and was trying like hell to get to his key and get inside his cubicle before he became a victim of their obvious desire to mess with somebody, anybody, because that's the kind of party they had in mind. Why let innocence get in the way of a well-planned episode of Search and Destroy that would fit the script, no matter who was in the hallway, no matter what they were doing, no matter. Black man walking, must be up to no good. Lock and load. Hey, it's New York, y'all, a very diverse city and state where unarmed niggas are only killed for legitimate reasons. Why else you think a crackerjack unit put 19 bullets in his young ass if it wasn't necessary? That was written after Amadou Diallo's verdict.
And so to our listening audience and our youth, that was some time ago. And 2000. So 20 years ago, you fast forward to the protests, and there were protests around the shooting, the 41 shots. There were just protest after protest after protest. And the mayor of New York, as Stanley said at the time, was Rudy Giuliani. So we have to go back, look back to move forward. We don't stay back there, but we move forward based on knowing what the past has been. And so the uprising and the uproar of so many people around what happened to George Floyd in 2020, and you look back over 20 years, and there's and even before then, Black lives do matter, and we work to make people recognize that through our words, through our poetry, through our song. Our next poet is a young person. Her name is Alexis Green. She is a spoken word artist and a graduate of Rider University. She's currently working on her master's because she wants to strengthen the power of her spoken word. Her name is Alexis Green.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon to NJ Pack, to Amina Baraka, and to all the other distinguished guests. Thank you so much for having me. Again, my name is Alexis Green. I'm a spoken word artist. I'm also a proud member of the Epsilon Upsilon Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And I also sell merchandise like the item I have on today. And so in honor of this incredible event that I'm so honored to be a part of, I would like to dedicate this poem to all of my beautiful Black sisters. And so without further ado, this piece is called When God Gave Me a Sister. Popcorn, pajamas, and pigtails. Hair braiding be and I love you never unwoven. Time shared, be stories shared, be beds shared, be sheets, exhausted from running back and forth across two big personalities when God gave me a sister. He made me a fable. So I stopped judging my brokenness by its cover. I realized that my scars are only trying to illustrate what my bruises are trying to bookmark, what my secrets are trying to read aloud, a novel of my never agains and prayerfully her never to start with. See, every page of my pain was worth it if it means she never has to become a summary of my shortcomings. When God gave me a sister, he made me a model. So with every borrowed pair of jeans and every unreturned sweater, she is trying on parts of my identity while still trying to find her own. And I pray that with every belt buckle that hugs her waist, she never begins to look like what I've been through. Pray that my hoop earrings never cling to her self-esteem. Hope they hang seen and not heard. Hope they never whisper loud enough to convince her she is not beautiful. Because she is. And sometimes I want my clothes back. But And I realized that while she is still picking from my closet, it is my job to make sure that my character never goes out of style and that my example is still worth wearing. When God made me a sister, he made me a warrior. See, he put a fire on my back, that put a stretch in my spine, that put a lunge in my shoulders, that put a twirl in my neck, that put a dent in my cheek for when I say I don't play about my sister. So, sister, when we find ourselves saying I love you with our tongues flipped backwards, when our fears and frustrations twist our teeth until our gums bleed words we can't take back, when our eyes can't quite grab hold of each other, but our nails know just where to dig to strike a nerve, I pray we remember that we are a reflection of each other. So if we break the only mirror that feels like home, how will we ever look at ourselves the same way again? And if we can't calm ourselves down enough to crack open our fist and pick up the pieces, who will? Sister, we are the ink that holds together the beauty of stories no one else will understand. We are the gravity that pulls each other's dreams close enough to meet our reach. We are the braiding of hair. And I love you, never unwoven. We are sisters, God given. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Alexis. So what she is saying is something that bears repeating. Love of each other and ourselves, that is a tool of Black liberation. When we love each other, when we love ourselves. Thank you so much, Alexis, for that beautiful expression. We are using poetry as a means to invoke, evoke, stimulate, inspire, and encourage one another during this opening Kwanzaa celebration. Our last elder for this ceremony and opening is the Honorable Mildred Crump. She is truly an activist and a barrier breaker. She was elected and she broke a 336-year-old barrier by being the first African-American woman to be elected and sworn into the Newark Municipal Council. That was in 1994. Since that time, she has served in various positions with the Municipal Council, and she currently serves as the president. Mildred's activism comes from her family as well. So the importance of family, talking to family and showing family, not only what we say, but what we do, builds and it pours a foundation for the generations before us. Mildred's mother was a poetess and a Sunday school teacher, and she demanded excellence from her children and her students. Mildred is a former teacher of the blind, and she did that for many, many years before becoming a councilwoman. And based on her mother's pouring in of that faith through Sunday school, Mildred's legacy is around faith, and she advocates for women, children, senior citizens. So while Honorable Mildred Crump is not going to recite to us today, but she's going to wrap it all up and connect what we've been talking about throughout this hour. She's going to connect activism with faith, with the arts, and how it all goes together. We're all in this together, everyone. And so I present to you our own Honorable Mildred Crump, who is not only known here in Newark, but Dr. Kalfani called her Mama Africa because she is a Ghanaian globetrotter. And she makes sure that the connection between Mother Africa and Newark is tight and solid. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Deborah, for those kind words of introduction. I am honored beyond my vocabulary to thank you and NJPAC to honor me during this very special Kwanzaa season. Permit me to also say thank you to one of my other children, Aisha Marable, whom I have known for more years than both she nor I want to reveal. Thank you so much, as I said, to John Schreiber on the phone the other day when you and I were talking. It's amazing what God has done with my life. Never would I have expected that on my own I would have the opportunity to live the life that I have, a life of sharing and giving and helping and availability. So for all of you who know me well, I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. To the point of this afternoon, I also want to honor and both the mother of this city, the mayor of this great city, Amina Baraka, and certainly her gift that she has shared with us for, as the old folks would say, lo, these many years. I also want to say hi to Stanley. Stanley could tell some stories about his parents and myself. Friday night was a very special night at Terrell Homes because we all gathered at their home and we played cards all night long. And depending on whether or not we had obligations, the Terrell home was Friday night. Let's go and have a good time. So what about Mildred? How did I become who I am? First of all, let me mention that I grew up with books. There were books all over our house. Our Christmas presents were not skates, they were not dolls, although we did get them. But from my parents, we all got books, and from my older brother. And so we grew up with a love of reading. And I still have that in my spirit and in my soul. Very often people will want to stop by without calling me. And I tell them, give me about 15 minutes. And I don't need it to, fix myself up or anything like that. I need to pick up all the books off the floor so they can walk into the living room. Reading has been a part of my life, and I've made it to the best of my ability and knowledge to my children as well. My sister, however, is the poet. And I need to say that God gave her the gift of writing, but he gave me the gift of activism. And so, and also, and to my sister as well. Some of you, I think Betty Bland, I saw her name come up. She is probably one of the ones who knows the fact that my sister and I served as presidents of our respective city councils at the same time. We were a statistic nationwide during that time. But my sister was is an incredible gift. And every now and then she'll do me the honor of calling me and say, I'm working on something for someone. And what do you think? And my honest to goodness reaction is, oh honey, you're much better than I am, and you have a way of taking words and giving them life. But I did write, as I told you, I became an activist, and I started my writing under for the NAACP of Detroit, Michigan, which you know was one of the largest in the United States of America, not just the adult, but the young adult division. I wrote many of the manifestos that we sent out, and I don't know if the name Ophiel Dukes, you can remember. Our young adult chapter was about 600 strong. This was not the adults, this was the strong. We grew up at a time when activism was expected, not hoped for. And so my love of writing came from documenting the inhumane and tragedies that occurred during that time. I still have some of my writings. And Deborah, when I get a chance to move the books, I'll find some, and I will send to you from written about the NAACP Young Adult Chapter. I thank you for the opportunity to be a member of this great panel. And I will close by saying something. And I'd like to believe that everyone else had grandparents such as mine. My grandmother went to the 6th grade, but my grandfather was only able to go to the 3rd grade. But he was the smartest man next to my father that I had ever known. And when I was about 15 years old, and like many of our families, we went every summer, we went south for July and August. And one year, he said to me, he said, I've been observing you. He said, you're going to do something with your life. It's going to be not about you. It's going to be about others. He said, I want to let you know that you were born to serve, and there's nothing that you can do about it. I thank my grandfather and all of the elders in my life who stepped in front of me when someone was trying to take me out. And that I've been able at 82, and I look good for 82.
Yes, you do.
Even every now and then somebody tries to hit on me. And I say, sweetheart, I'm much too old for you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share. And I see that Nadia, she sent me and said, you do look good, Mama. Thank you. God bless you and keep you.
Thank you.
Did I
Before-
thank our mayor, the most
Yes.
fabulous young man I know? Okay.
Yes, we definitely want to thank him. And before I turn this back to Aisha, I want to say to everyone that these conversations are really important, and they were going on during the summer. So if you go to NJPAC's website, you can see the previous conversations with the elders. I serve as the chairperson for the Elders Council, and I would like to, for my closing, I would like to name all of them. You need to know who they are. And I need to also, so I'm giving honor to those who are living and honor to those who are deceased. So our current living Council of Elders, Amina Baraka, Earl Street, Dr. Best, Eugene Campbell, Edith Churchman, Carol Graves, Larry Ham, Wilbur McNeil, Dr. Julia Miller, William D. Payne, John L. Smith, and the second John L. Smith, Stanley Terrell, Lois Thomas, Carolyn Thompson Wallace, Joan Whitlow, Dr. A. Zachary Yamba, Junius Williams, Donald Bradley, Sharp James, Honorable, Gloria Buck, and Dorthon Kirk. Those are our current living Council of Elders. And I want to pay tribute by saying the names of those who are deceased. Dorothy Anderson, Robert Banks, Amiri Baraka, Elma Bateman, Carl Tiny Prince Brinson, Raymond Brown Esquire, Sally G. Carroll, James Churchman, Charles Babachuk Davis, Barbara Delaney, Dr. E. Alma Flagg, Dorothy Gould, Gladys Grauer, Gus Henningberg, Frank C. Hutchins, Bernice C. Johnson, Eddie Mae Livingston, Katunge Mama Mimi, Gil Noble, Charles Nolly, Joyce Smith Carter, Larry West Starks, Catherine Kitty Taylor, Reverend Dr. Edward W. Verner, Julius Honey Ward, Richard Whitten Sr., and Inez McClendon. We say their names to move their spirits to continue to live on through us and our memories. I would like to turn the program over to Aisha Marable.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us today. And this is just the beginning of our Kwanzaa celebration. I want to again thank John Schreiber and our Mayor Ras Baraka for joining us and these amazing poets. I hope you enjoyed this morning, but please know this is just the beginning. We have an amazing Kwanzaa celebration that starts the day and continues into the end of the month, December 31st. Please tune in, look at the recordings afterwards. Immediately after this conversation, we have a Divine Nine panel discussion that begins at 1 o'clock. We have a theater conversation that begins at 3, and we have 7 movement classes that begin at 5 p.m. You don't want to miss them. Please go to our website at njpac.org/Kwanzaa. Register and get in where you fit in. And if you don't have time today, stop by any other day between now and the end of the month. And remember, we have vendors, marketplace, artisans that have done amazing work. You want to stop in and support them as much as possible. And we also have the Step Africa free performance. It will be available today and tomorrow. So thank you for spending your morning with us. We appreciate you. Thank you, Deborah Smith-Gregory, Dr. Akil Kalfani, all of our amazing panelists. We honor you. We celebrate you. Happy Kwanzaa. Habaragani.